Pray then in this way: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our debts, as we have also forgiven our debtors. Or sins or trespasses, or however you want to read that. Honestly, for a good part of this week, I felt like I was trapped in an old joke. It goes like this. It says, only lawyers and philosophers debate about what the definition of is. I felt like I spent a good part of my week trying to figure out what the definition of as is. Forgive us our debts as we have also forgiven our debtors. Is as there a concept of time? Forgive my debts while at the same time that I am forgiving those who have sinned against me? Or is it a matter of degree? Forgive my debts as much as I forget in the debts of others. Teach me to forgive as much as you did, that I may receive your grace. I was going through the Greek words and different commentaries and getting different answers, and I went on to this, and how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? No, 77 times. 7 times 7 times. 7 is completion. Completion times completion. Completion to completion. And I was lost. I couldn't find an answer. And then finally I realized I'm looking at the wrong verse. I'm looking at the wrong story here. And God spoke. And he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Christ in the midst of suffering, of a torturous death, worse than we could comprehend, stopped and prayed for those who were beating him, for those who were torturing him, for those who were killing him. In the midst of this suffering and shame and pain, his fear was that those who were causing him this pain wouldn't receive his grace, wouldn't be able to be bound back to him by love, because they wouldn't receive his grace, wouldn't accept his grace. Guys, God's grace is unconditional. It's not something we earn. It's not something he's piecemealing out. Oh, you forgave someone, let me give you a little more grace. Oh, you prayed more this week, I'll get you a little more grace there. Or you gave some more this week, great, here's a little more grace. That's not how God works. God is desperately trying to get everyone to take his free grace. God, in his desire to be reconciled to us, to know us, to love us, to be loved by us, is throwing his grace at us, is concerned with the people hurting him, killing him. That's how much God wants everyone to receive his grace. He is not putting conditions on receiving his grace. He never did that. He always went and embraced these people first, regardless of who they were. They were tax collectors or thieves or prostitutes. He didn't care. He went up and embraced them first. He didn't put requirements on getting to know him, on getting close to him. He didn't say, Matthew, you need to stop cheating your brothers and sisters and give that money back and then we can talk. He said, no. He walked by his business and said, hey, we're having dinner tonight, buddy. But he didn't let them off the hook. He didn't work on their hearts to get them to make these things right, to turn around. But he didn't make it a condition of him embracing them, of him bringing them close, because he was trying to reach all of them. Even in his last breaths, in his final moments on this world, his concern were for the thief and the murderer hanging next to him. And that thief received God's grace. Truly, I tell you, you will be with me in paradise. While the murderer scoffed and mocked him with his dying breath. It wasn't that Christ didn't offer the same grace to both of them. It's that the thief realized he needed it. The thief was able to humble himself. He was able to give up his anger, his disdain, his mistrust, and accept the grace that Jesus was offering. God is not parceling out grace bits and pieces. God is not putting conditions on his grace, but we have to be ready to receive that grace. We have to be willing to receive that grace. Jesus, when asked about this, tells a story. He said, "For this reason the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wishes to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him, and he could not pay. His lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, 'Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything.' And out of pity for him, the lord of that slave released him and forgave him his debt. But that same slave, as he went out, came upon his fellow slaves, who owed him 100 denarii, and seized him by the throat. He said, 'Pay me what you owe.' Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, 'Have patience with me, and I will pay you.' But he refused. Then he went and threw him into prison until he could pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord what had taken place. Then his lord summoned him and said to him, 'You wicked slave, I forgave you all the debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have mercy on your fellow slave, that I had mercy on you?' And in anger his lord handed him over to be tortured until he would pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will also do to each one of you, if you do not forgive your brother or your sister from your heart." read one translation of this that I really liked. Rather than saying 10,000 talents, it said 11 gajillion dollars. 10,000 talents is a ridiculous amount of money. It's amazing when he said, "Have patience and I will pay you everything," that it isn't recorded that everyone in the throne room started laughing. The emperor of Rome probably couldn't have repaid that debt. It's a debt of innumerable cost. It's a debt that can never be repaid. God's grace is a free gift. Our freedom in God is a free gift. It's not something we can ever earn. C.S. Lewis put it this way. He said, "A man who thinks he can earn his grace is like a son that goes to his father and asks for a pound note to buy his dad a birthday present." Now, it's not that the dad isn't thrilled and excited about the present. It's not that the son didn't learn something, but the son didn't really buy a present for his dad. It's the same way with God. Our every breath, our every move, our every word is something already given to us by God. We can never do anything but give back to God what is already His. We can never do more than to pay back a debt. We are on the mercy of God. The pity He shows, the love, the grace, the mercy He shows us is the only reason we can ever get out of that debt. And this man, who was forgiven an innumerable debt, went out, and it said he seized by the throat someone who owed him a pittance, a few $100s, and was angry with him and had him thrown in prison. And the other servants, the other slaves go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." They can't believe the indignation and the anger of this man. Augustine refers to anger as a poison that men hoard and treasure. It's the thing that is killing us from the inside out, and we treasure it. We hoard it in our hearts, and God is there trying to give us good food to eat, the bread of life, the water everlasting, and we say, "No, I'm good. I got this poison that I just can't let go of." God says, "I want to make you free of that anger. I want to make you free of the mistrust and hate that has taken place in your heart. I want to free you." And we say, "But God, you don't know what He did to me. God, you don't know how unfair it is here." That's absolutely hilarious to me. And I think we've all done it. God, you don't know how unfair it can be here on earth. If anyone knows how unfair things can be here on earth, it's God. The only truly innocent man beaten and tortured to death because he had the gall to say, "Hey, maybe we should just love each other." God doesn't need us to tell Him this world isn't fair. And I understand it. I understand it when we are hurt. When someone we love is hurt. When we see injustice around us, we get angry. Of course we get angry. But we can't hold on to to that anger. We can't let that anger define us. We can't let that anger find a place in our heart, because if it does, it's going to grow. And it's going to fester into malice, vengeance, hatred, and mistrust. And pretty soon we're not going to be able to hear God speaking to our hearts, because all we can hear is our own anger. Can't hear someone trying to calm you down when you can only hear the blood pumping in your ears for the rage. I heard a story one time about a Bible translator. And they were trying to translate this passage into, some African language I can't remember at this point. But they were having trouble. Because he says when he got angry, he seized him by the throat. But when they got down to the end, he says, if you do not forgive your brother or your sister from your heart. They had trouble because it was the same phrase. To forgive your brother or your sister was to release their throat. And when we get angry, when someone wrongs us, when we feel injustice going on, I hope metaphorically, we get angry and we seize them by the throat in our anger. The problem is when we leave our hands there. When we hang on to that anger, because if we are holding someone by the throat, you're going to see I can't do a whole lot else with my hands. If I'm so focused on my anger, I can't let go of that, I can't do what God is calling me to do. I can't do anything else because my hands are stuck on their throat. And even more powerfully, this one hit me like a ton of bricks. If you're holding someone by the throat, you're never getting farther away than this. You are trapped with that person. You are bound to that person by your anger. And it hit me because that's what I had done. I had someone in my life that I trusted, and they attacked our family, threatened our family, threatened our future, and I was furious, and I was desperate, and I was angry. For a year, solid year, I held on to that anger. And I would tell myself, I'm seeking justice. I don't want them in that position anymore because they're going to do this to someone else. I'm protecting other people. And I just kept telling myself that. And then one day God said, you're not seeking justice. You're seeking vengeance. You can't let go of your anger. And I realized I had bound myself to these people. To this woman, to the people that were handling the complaint. I realized I had given them control. Control over when I was going to let go. I had given them control over whether I was going to be able to forgive. I gave them control over whether or not I was going to experience the freedom that God wanted for me. I gave them control over whether I was going to live the life of peace and joy and fulfillment that God had planned for me. I had given up that power to other people. And I guarantee you, no matter what someone else has done, no matter how it hurts you, no matter how deeply it had impacted your lives, if you are still holding them by the throat, you are making it worse. You are trapping yourselves. You are linking yourselves to them, and you're giving them the power over your life, over your freedom. God spoke to me on that day. He said, look, you are wrapped up in your anger and your vengeance here. He says, what has it brought you? Has it brought you any joy or contentment? Has it allowed you to do anything for me? He said, now look at that woman. That woman has left her insecurity, her mistrust, her anger consume her. And it's left her alone. And it's left her wanting to serve me, but not able to hear me over her own insecurity and anger. In that moment, I couldn't feel angry anymore. In one moment, all I could ever feel for that woman again was pity. That her mistrust, that what her mistrust and anger was costing her. And I didn't want to be that. I let go of her throat. I stopped letting other people have power over whether I was going to receive forgiveness, if I was going to be able to forgive, if I was able to live the life that God wanted for me. And you know what? That woman, to this day, wouldn't say she needed forgiveness. And she wasn't going to take my phone call, I'll tell you that much. But in forgiving her in my heart, I let go. Took my hands off her throat, and I found freedom. Found the grace that I had been missing. I found the connection with God that I had been missing. Anger, vengeance, hate, malice, mistrust. These things can only drive you away from God. God, teach us to forgive those who have sinned against us. Teach us to let go, that we may receive the grace you are desperately trying to give us. That we can have the love and the freedom and the life and the joy you want for us. God, teach us to let go. God, take away that anger. Take away that poison I have let into my heart. Teach me to forgive, that I may receive you.